right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at my pedal board. This is actually something I didn't really think that anybody would really care about until I started just getting emails and DMs about some of the things that I was using, and thought maybe it would just be helpful to jump on here and just kind of do a quick walkthrough about how I'm using what I'm using. I do my pedal board setup just a little bit differently than most people. This isn't just exclusively for bass. I know most of you who are watching this are predominantly bass players. But for those that don't know, my first instrument is actually guitar, and how I got into bass is a whole different story. But when I went to actually building this pedal board, a lot more went into how do I configure this so that I can do both electric guitar and bass guitar at the same time. Back in the day when I was playing guitar, I had stereo amp rigs, and when I got married, we moved into a 3-story apartment, and the last thing that I wanted to do was blast my tube amps at 1 in the morning. And so I needed a solution that would get me through. And so this pedal board, as we'll get into, kind of helps, go digital, so to speak, and helps me to figure out how I'm going to achieve recording without having to turn up loud tube amps. And around that time, I was getting into bass as well. But this is really meant for both of those worlds, so you'll learn about that today. So if you're a guitar player also, would you go ahead and just leave a comment down below and let me know if you'd like to see more guitar related content? If so, I'd love to put some more out if that's something that we're resonating with in the community. And if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe if you're finding value in this content. I'm just trying to kind of get this YouTube thing back up, and it's been a lot of fun, and glad to hear and see that so many of you are resonating with the content. But if you're new here, welcome. By hitting like and subscribe, that really helps out the channel and helps in getting in front of more people. Also, final thing before we jump into the pedal board, this is going to be a part 1 of 2 videos. This video here, we're going to predominantly walk through my pedal board, and then I'm also just going to show you the bass and guitars that I'm using. But in the second video that I'm going to do, I'm actually going to do a quick walkthrough on my recording setup. How do I record bass? Even a little bit about how I record videos. And so let me know in the comments as well, is recording something that you want to see more content of? And if so, always happy to kind of share more there. But anyways, thank you again for tuning in. Let's go ahead and just jump right into the pedal board and see what we got going on. All right, so here we are. This is the pedal board. Let's go ahead and just start with the bare essentials before we jump in pretty deep. It looks pretty relatively complicated depending on who we're talking to, but it's actually a very simple setup. First and foremost, the board itself that I'm using is from the Blackout series from Creation Music Company. It's the like the flat board. Honestly, it's just been really great. It's super durable. It's heavy duty without it being too heavy, if that makes sense. I'm not doing any like flying with it or any crazy traveling, but it's just really served me well. So that's the board that we're using here. Now, before we go any further into the pedals, I want to share a couple things. First of all, you're seeing it under here. I'll throw a photo up on the screen, but this is the HX, if I'm pronouncing that right, DC7. And so it's got like 8 outputs here, and it's what's called a switch mode power supply. And it's just a different powering type than like the transistor base that you see on, like the old Voodoo Lab power supplies. But I gotta say, guys, don't skimp on your power supply. I hear and see on forums so many, even for bass players and guitar players alike, so many sound issues and ground hum, 60 cycles, buzzing. Guys, the reason why a lot of your tone isn't sounding the way that it's supposed to is because your pedals aren't getting proper power or proper power conditioning. So don't skimp on your power supply. I know it's not one of the coolest or the sexiest things to be looking at when you're looking at a pedal board setup, but the power supply makes a big difference. And if you're going to be investing in some higher end digital pedals, you need to be powering that right. So what I really like about the HX here is that it has lots of power flexibility per the output, which isn't common on a lot of the older power supplies. It's got a low profile, it's super lightweight, and it gives my my pedals the power they need. And it also has like a little extension as well. So if I wanted to add more pedals over time, I can do that in a way that doesn't take up too much real estate. So that's the first thing I want to say. Get yourself a good power supply. That's really going to make or break your situation. Now, moving into the rest of the board here, you have cables. I don't remember the name of the company, but that was another thing that I wanted to say. It's a little messy now, but I hand soldered all of these cables myself using a soldering iron. I cannot recommend enough how great of a skill it is to be able to learn how to solder your own cables. You're just gonna save so much time and so much money on cables. When you learn how to solder them yourself, you can repair them. It's actually pretty simple and pretty easy once you get the hang of it. The markup for pedals is just so high these days in most environments or music stores that I just recommend making your own. And so that's what I did. It was a fun new venture, and I can't recommend it enough. So learn that skill. It's going to be valuable. I'm going to put a link also in the description to a soldering iron that I use, and you can get started today. It's a really simple thing to do, and you can start with some of your own cables. So I'll put some links there. They will be affiliate links, I will say. It just kind of helps the channel out. But so buying through there would be very much appreciated in terms of your support. So overall, that's sort of the baseline here. So now going into the signal flow, the first thing that I'm hitting is the Pulp and Peel compressor by HX pedals. Now, very interesting pedal here. It's not a very transparent compressor, and the reason why I have this, I got this in a direct trade with Josh Scott. Super nice guy. I did a pedal trade, and he gave me some JHS stuff. And I use this on guitar, and what this emulates, it's not transparent. It kind of does the 1176 compressor thing, so it colors your tone just a bit. And I loved how it sounded on my electric guitar. It just excited the tone quite a bit. But I ended up really liking this on bass for a variety of reasons. Number one, obviously there's the compression knob, but you have this blend knob, so I can blend in the compression tone and the clean tone to taste, which is something that I really like, is being able to parallel compress things, and this really helps with that. It has something called an EQ knob. So this is a seesaw EQ. So if I pull this to the left, it's going to boost my low frequencies and then cut high at the same time. So it kind of does this seesaw effect. And then if I turn to the right, it's going to boost my treble frequencies and cut my low frequencies. And so that's just really helpful. Like I said, I do guitar and bass, and I've also done guitar switches. And so this EQ knob, because I have a humbucker and some single coil pickups and then my bass, being able to like have one no nonsense knob to do really quick EQ adjustments is so nice to have when I'm working pretty much at home and recording. Being able to like make those changes on the fly without having to think too much about it is awesome. Another great thing, this switch right here has literally a built-in rat pedal. The rat distortion is so popular on bass. I've used this. You kick that, it is a switch, I know, but you do have a rat distortion there, and you can control the gain through a little screw on the side. And then as you can see here on the camera, there's a little XLR output. So I can record my bass amp tone, and I can run my bass into the pedal board and then directly out of the compressor and get a compressed DI tone, which is awesome. Or just a DI tone if I want to do parallel routing. So this is a really great utility knife device, and I can't recommend it enough. So many bass players are sleeping on this pedal. Highly, highly recommend it. This thing is just awesome. It's not completely transparent, like I said, but honestly, it sounds great. I love what it does to the tone. Going out of there, I go into my two Overdrive pedals. The first one here is the Timmy Overdrive. This is an old, like hand-wired one. In the HX Stomp, it's known as the Tima pedal. This thing just sounds great on bass and guitar. Use it a lot. This is sort of the setting that I have here. Knobs kind of turned inward. I find that works best. Then I go into the Morning Glory. There's this great bass player by the name of Roy Mitchell from the band called Mute Math. And I remember seeing a video like 15 years ago where he did a rig rundown on his bass rig, and he used one of these. And it doesn't add a lot of distortion. Like, I'm not going crazy with it, but it's adding just a little bit of breakup, just like you would on a guitar. And what I find this does, it just adds just enough grit to the tone to help you cut through.
And then I push this depending on the song. So if I want a cleaner sound, it's just enough where it's not, it like just pushes the clean a little bit. It's a subtlety. That's what I like about this pedal the most. It's subtle.
A lot of the band contexts that I play in, there's usually just one guitar player, drums, and then there's me and a bass or maybe an acoustic. And so I just need a little bit more mids to help cut through the mix and to sort of, in a way, make up for what the rhythm guitar would be doing. And so this pedal really helps me get away with that without it being over the top. It's not a microsynth, it's not a distortion, it's an overdrive. And I find that 9 times out of 10, that's all you really need to get by. You don't need anything wild. So this thing is incredible, even on guitar. Now, going into the rest of the board. After this pedal, now we're going into the HX Stomp. This is the heartbeat of the board. As you know, many of you guys are familiar with this pedal. And I actually bought this pedal really out of me moving into an apartment when I had just gotten married. I moved here to Portland, Oregon, and I wanted to record without having to mic my amps. And living in an apartment, you don't want to, make your neighbors angry at 1 a.m. with a Vox AC15 or a Vox AC30. So I bought this really just wanting to go direct into my DAW. And, this thing has really done wonders for that. It's one of the best sounding pedals that is digital. And I was skeptical and it blew me away. And as many of you here know, this is where the Worship Bass preset has come out of. I just released version 2. Before we get back into the rest of the pedalboard video, I just want to shout out our sponsor, which today is me and my company, Astra Audio. Astra Audio is really now just kind of started in the last year, and we're just putting out presets for different digital modelers that help musicians access the tone or have access to the tone that they have in their head. Some of these tools can be really overwhelming and very dense. You find yourself menu diving all the time. My goal with Astra Audio is to provide presets that really help cut the amount of time that you're spending on these devices twisting knobs so that you can just get really more focused on making music. And so to that, I also really try to be genre specific. And so as you'll see on the website, or you may have heard, the Worship Bass, and we've also just put out a bass preset pack called Worship Bass Advanced, which is a very exclusive look at the version 2 of the Worship Bass preset. It's only going to be available in this pack, and then it has like 4 other amp packs as well that split your signal out into a DI and an amp signal and really offer you some more complex routing options without having to do all the work to figure that out yourself. So go check those presets out. And regardless, even if you don't want to buy a preset, I even have a free preset up as well called the Basic Bass Rig. You can just download that for free and start using it today if you have an HX Stomp. Anyways, thank you so much for being a part of this community, and thank you for your support over the years. It really does mean the world. And if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. I really want to get this content in front of more bass players and more guitar players who are seeking ways to level up their tone. And so my goal is to really just help with that. So anyways, we'll get right back into the pedal board setup here. Yeah, this is really the heartbeat of the board here. Coming out here, as you'll see, I'm running the effects loop. Now the effects loop is going into these 2 pedals from GFI Effects. I really wanted to find some programmable delay and reverb pedals that weren't Strymon. Nothing against Strymon, they make great pedals. Lots of people use them, they sound great, but I just wanted something that was just not that. And I like the smaller form factor of these. These are both the exact same pedal, except that I'm just using one for reverbs and one for delays. It's really that simple. And they sound incredible on guitar. I don't really use these on bass too much, full disclosure, but I do have these running into the effects loop of the HX Stomp, so that way I can control where they are in the chain. So I can run these either before the amp or after the amp, which is typically how I run them on guitar. It just allows for that level of flexibility with my wet effects, which is something that I really like to have. So there's that. Now, coming over here, I took the cable out, but really all this was is bank down, bank up for the presets. So just a no-nonsense. This is from a company called Rockstock. It's really easy. You just plug it into the expression pedal side, and then you have a bank up and down. And so I'll put a link into the description to purchase this on Amazon. I think it's like 40 or 50 bucks, so it's relatively cost effective. So great. Moving on over to here, all of this is from Analog Endeavors. It's really just an aux switcher, or even, I don't know if you technically call it a MIDI switcher, but really this line here is like, oh, looks like I'm having a cable issue, but this basically banks up and down on the reverbs, and then the center one is like a favorite switch. And then this one banks up and down on the delay, as you can see, and then I have a tap tempo here in the center. So really simple. I mean, I don't need a crazy switcher. I just need something simple to control these two, since these basically are just on and off switches, and it just makes things easier for me live. Okay, so that's pretty much the board. Now, where I'm getting a lot of questions in my emails here are, what is this mysterious black box here? This is the Canvas stereo line isolator in DI from Walrus Audio. It's wrapped in gaff tape, as you can see. The main reason why I wrapped it in gaff tape, it's a silly reason, but I just thought that the Polaroid thing was really tacky, and I hated it. And so I just taped it up because I didn't want to see it. But this thing, I get a lot of questions about, and people have been sort of messaging and asking, okay, well, why would you need a DI if there's balanced outputs on the HX Stomp? And I'll tell you why. One, it acts primarily just as a junction box. It's really convenient. When I set down my pedal board, I don't have like floppy cables here. I can just run them straight into the DI box, and then most venues are already going to have a XLR cables that I can just plug right into the side. So that's reason number one. It's kind of a convenience factor. The other reason for that is because I run stereo guitar sometimes out of this, either into my DAW or live, and then having the ability to sum or go between DI and, you know, line isolation mode is just really great when I'm dealing with different gain types and gain structures. It just allows on-the-fly flexibility that I can just use with the tap of a button. Makes my life easier and the sound guy's life easier. And then also has a pad as well in case I'm giving too hot of a signal to front of house and we need to bring down the gain substantially. I don't have to menu dive here. I can just hit the pad and then everything comes down. So that's another great thing. It has a ground lift switch, which is great for, you know, dealing with any 60 cycle hum or buzz. And what's also really great is I can come out here on these outputs, but then I have two more outputs here that my signal split. So if I want to run to onstage amps, I can do that. So I've done that before. I've usually run just for bass, one out of here to front of house. And then I ran an amp on stage at a show recently, and then I just plugged, you know, into the amp out of the output of this one. So that way I had some stage volume next to me as like a monitor. And so there's just a lot of utility. It's a nice little, it's a nice little Swiss Army knife, and it just does a lot of little things that aren't necessarily tone oriented, but they're just really important utilities to have when I'm doing, you know, any kind of work. So there's that. And then finally, some people, you know, have asked like about this thing. This is just an AirTag. And then Pelican makes a really great little AirTag case with like 3mm tape that you can just put on your pedal board. And then you can track your pedal board. It's really great. It's like impossible to take out. And so, yeah, can't recommend these enough. I'll put a link in the description for these. They're pretty cheap. I think they're like $15-20. And I highly recommend in your guitar cases and your pedal board cases or your laptop cases, get one of these Pelican AirTag things. And that way you'll always be able to track your gear and make sure that it is that it's safe. So, yeah, can't recommend that enough. So that's pretty much it. That's the pedal board that I'm running into. Now let's take a look at the guitars. So now let's look at the guitars that I'm using in the bass. So this is the bass that I'm using. It's really simple, no frills. This is a Fender PJ bass, and all the PJ means is precision in jazz. So it's got the precision pickup, and then it has a jazz pickup here in the bridge. Now, for all of the videos that you've heard me do, and when I'm building presets, I'm pretty much only using the P pickup. I just find that a P bass sounds good on 99% of just about everything. Most of the recordings that you've ever heard throughout all of music history have been done on a P bass, at least when it comes to rock music and pop worship. P bass is the way. And so that's how you're hearing that. This is a rosewood neck, And then what's really great about the PJ basses from Fender is that they have some, I think it's called a C-shaped neck or something, where it's a little bit more thin when you're gripping it. And so as a guitar player, it just makes for a really nice, you know, grip when I'm going for it. And this is a Mexican bass. And I didn't do this, but whoever had it before, they replaced everything with just like American parts. And so this thing really just gets the job done. It's a workhorse. I used to own a jazz bass. I had another Fender passive P bass as well. They're all great, but this one has just really stuck with me over the years. All right, so if you're this far in, we're gonna switch to guitars now. I understand maybe not everybody might care about guitar, so if you don't, feel free to click out of the video at this point and check out part 2 on recording. But for those of you that are interested in the guitar portion, just let me know. Comment down below if this is something you're interested in, and I'll cover more guitar stuff if that's what we want to do. But this was my first real electric guitar. This is like, I think it's 2008, 2010 maybe, a Fender Telecaster. It was sort of like a graduation gift, and I remember wanting a guitar and just saying, like, I just want whatever Bruce Springsteen has. That's the guitar I want, which I think is like a 52 style Tele, and so that's kind of what I ended up with. It's a little different because it's got the pickup switch down below instead of up here, which makes it really great because I do a lot. As you saw, I don't have a volume pedal. So I do a lot of volume swells with my pinky when I'm playing. And I also fiddle with the volume for getting a clean amp tone because I run my amps kind of on the dirtier side. So being able to clean things up is really important to me. Pickups have been changed. Bridge has been changed. It's basically a little Frankenstein guitar. This thing has gone with me everywhere. It's been sort of a #1 for years. I've gigged this to heaven and hell and back. And so it served me so well. And I love this thing. So Fender Tele, it's Mexican made, I think, too, as well. The Mexican stuff's great. You should all use it. So that's that one. Okay, this thing is special. There is a great guitar brand out there that you should all check out. It's called Eastman Guitars. I got this, man, maybe 10, 15 years ago in a trade with a good friend of mine named Gio. The dude is one of the most generous people on the planet, and he basically traded like a Cusack tremolo pedal for this. So I had the pedal, I gave it to him, and I think some petty cash, and that pedal, I ended up with this guitar. This guitar is basically like a 335 copy, except that around the time that these were being made, Gibson was just not killing it in their quality control. And Eastman kind of came out, and they basically started building these 335 copies, and a lot like the way that 335s were built back in the day, like the vintage ones. So it has a nitro finish. I just can't tell you how great this is. And there's a really cool story. It's for another day, but as you can see here, I had dropped this guitar during a guitar switch, and I was tuning. This is during a sound check, and the guitar just dropped off of me onto my pedal board, and it busted a hole in the input jack and put this thing out of commission for years. My wife conspired with a great guitar player in our church community. His name's Chris Galambos. Shout out to Chris. And they got it repaired for me, and then they gave it to me as a Christmas gift, and I've been able to use it again. So go check out some other videos I have up. I think I have some videos up by this point in time where you can hear this thing, and it just sounds incredible. It's got like the vintage tuners on it. It says Eastman. It's not to be confused with Epiphone. It's not an Epiphone. This thing is just wicked awesome. Okay, I've got this other great guitar, but I gotta go to my closet here. I'm a hot mess. Whew. All right. So there's this great guitar that I have here. This is also a Telecaster. I traded just straight up an Ibanez Strat for this thing, and the guy just went for it. I think it was a Squier at one point. The guy just put a bunch of American hardware on it. He relicked the thing. He updated the pickups. This has now a four-way switch. So it's like at the very bottom, it's, bridge, and then middle position, and the neck. And then there's that fourth position where it combines the two into like a humbucker. And it doesn't sound great in my opinion when it comes to distortion, but it's a clean tone. It's excellent. So yeah, this is another really great Tele. as well. It's got the tremolo. And then, yeah, a little sticker on the back. It says, "Thank you, stranger." I was working in a coffee shop. Somebody just handed that to me. And I kept it. I thought it was kind of cool, so I put it on the back of my guitar. All right, now for the last guitar. This is my Gibson J45. Whoops, just bumped it. This is my Gibson J45. It's a rosewood, and right now it's in an open tuning because I was just playing with that. A little bit of out of tune. The J45 is one of the most recorded acoustic guitars in history. Every one of my favorite songwriters of all time wrote songs and recorded on these things, and so I really wanted to have one. I reached out to a guy in Craigslist. I basically lowballed him, like badly lowballed him, and of course he declined. And I said, sure thing. So I disappeared, and then 2 days later he messages me and goes, you know what, fine, I'll do it. And so I go and I pick up the guitar, and it was incredible, and I bought it right on the spot. So that's a tip for you. If you're on Craigslist or Marketplace, don't be afraid to lowball. Gear prices these days are crazy. Everybody's charging like insane amounts of money for things that just aren't worth as high as they are. Be fearless. Go ahead and just lowball them, because things aren't actually worth what people list them for. Things are worth what people are willing to pay for them. And you know what? I guarantee that a lot of sellers, for you, if you do that, they're just not going to be patient enough. They're going to want to sell the thing. Even if it's, you know, you wait a week, they'll get back to you. I've had that happen almost every time I've lowballed somebody. So lowball stuff, you know, music should be accessible. Everybody should be able to do it. And just because you have some random colored pedal that isn't the same color as all the other ones doesn't mean that you should list it for like $500. That's ridiculous. But anyways, you might get a Gibson as a result. All right, guys. Well, I just want to say thank you for checking out the video, for looking through the pedal board. You know, I've really appreciated getting all of the messages that I get. So if you have questions for me, continue to shoot me emails, continue to shoot me messages, comment on this video and let me know. I'll try to answer all the questions that come through. My hope with these videos is really just to provide value to the guitar and bass playing community. I want to, you know, make it easy and light and entertaining for you guys, but also provide information that you guys can take away and really use at your church or in your gig or in your band, wherever it is that you might be playing. Yeah, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you soon on the next one.